Hey, Gospel Guitarist here with another episode on the Studio Essentials. Today I was just going to demonstrate a little bit of the cable selection you're going to want. Um, this could be increased dramatically by your needs or reduced. But I'm just going to talk about some of the cables I have here just to clarify some of the differences. Maybe help with some of the questions you might have. To start off with, the best advice I can think to tell you is, although some cables seem to be cheaper in quality, they can last quite a long time. Um, what I have here on the table are some HOSAs, and they're just black or plastic cased cables, but they do very well. The HOSA brand does. Other cheaper brands may break inside and they don't last very well. I have not had any problem with the HOSA brand at all, and they're not real expensive. Um, so buy the cables that will connect the two devices that you want to connect without the use of these little bad guys up here. In normal everyday life, you want to hook up your headset from your stereo to your phone, and you need these little adapters to do these types of things, 1/8 inch to quarter or quarter to 1/8 inch. Um, they're fun for everyday use, that's fine, but in the studio they can become a problem. I haven't had a tremendous amount of problems, but I've heard all kinds of people having problems, and that they can make more noise for you in the connection lines. They're not of high quality when they're built, so they have a high prone to be subject to failing all the time. And so I don't use those in the studio. If I can avoid it at all costs, I will. Generally what you should be doing is winding up with enough pro level cables to cover every kind of connection you're going to need to make in your studio. And the other piece of advice is to go balanced line as much as possible, especially if it's a home studio, where we have a lot of problems with like wiring inside the studio building. Your normal home or apartment like I'm in here. And so I would prefer to go with XLR connections whenever possible for the balanced connections between the mixers and speakers and things like that to keep the noise levels eliminated from the lighting and things like that. For your other connections here, balanced lines have a tip, ring, and sleeve on them to connect all three wires from the 3 pins on your XLR. So in this case, I would have an XLR device going to a phone plug connection. On this cable, we have a different type, the female plug for the XLR into an RCA connection. So just depending on what kind of gear you're connecting, buy the proper cable for the connection and avoid these guys. It's my best advice. The other thing, some of these cables will come with a mono connection, so you got a tip and a sleeve, and these would be just assorted patch cables. But you can also get the same type of cables in balanced format, so you've got a tip, ring, sleeve. So if you can run tip, ring, sleeve balanced connections between your gear, you're going to eliminate another source of possible hum and ground looping. One of the things on ground looping too is if you have a lot of rack gear, you can introduce hum into it by letting the rack gear touch from one case to another. So you can get these plastic inserts that go around the connections where you put your screw through to bolt your gear to your rack. You have a piece of plastic there to separate the metal from the rack. So you're going to eliminate any ground loops there. I've never personally experienced a ground loop between my equipment. I try to keep everything as perfectly grounded as possible, and I use Furmans everywhere. So I've never had those issues, but I do know that people have had them. And in spite of that, I still feel like I need to go out and buy the plastic tabs and put in all my rack gear. I do a lot of guitar, but it's not just a guitar. You want to have whatever you're plugging into. If you have a cheap cable, you're going to get lower quality audio coming out of that piece of equipment. So if I want the full frequency response of my guitar and to be nice and clear, I want a nice cable. Now this is a Mogami here. It's not the most expensive Mogami, but it is an oxygen-free cable and it sounds very nice and clean and bright. And I have a smaller one here as well that I can use to patch in like a small guitar processor before it hits an amp or hits my mixer, so that the signal stays clean. Doesn't do much good to buy an expensive guitar cable to patch into a guitar processor and then use something like this to go from the processor to your mixer. Get something that's going to be equal quality to keep the guitar signal nice and pure. Another thing you're going to want in your studio is MIDI cables, which are this one here, the 5-pin or 7 pins. You're going to want a couple MIDI cables available for keyboards to record off of, and plenty of mic cables, guitar patch cables. You want decent quality for all of your little patchwork cables that you're going to be doing for guitars or signal processors in your racks. And with that we come to these big guys. So instead of patching all of your gear in your rack with 40 loose cables, you can buy cable snakes. And in this case, this snake is what we call an insert snake. And at one end of the snake we have mono cables that break out. So there's 2 mono cables, say the purple and yellow one here. And then at the other end of the snake we grab, well, that was purple and yellow. It should be purple and red. So we got the purple one and we see that it's purple and red. So at one end we have a tip ring sleeve connector, and at the other end the purple one breaks out into a mono connector and the red breaks out into a mono connector. So this is like a send and this would be a return, or vice versa, however you want to wire it. But the point is that you have a whole bunch of them. So you got 4 devices that you can patch in your mixer's auxiliary sends or connecting different pieces of gear. Another snake would be at where the whole thing is mono at both ends. So in this case you could just patch in a whole bunch of gear with one cable, and it keeps all your cabling clean behind your racks. But it don't cost a whole lot compared to going this route they do. But you'll like going the snakes. Keeps everything nice and tidy in your racks. So that's it real quick on cables. The one thing you're going to need is a ton of cables in your studio. You want backups for every cable that you have. You never know when a cable's going to go out on you, and you want to have something that you can grab and keep working so it doesn't interrupt your workflow. Just a couple seconds to swap out a cable. So we have MIDI cables, we have mono cables, we have balance cables, we have XLR type male and female cables. These are the males, that's female, XLR cables, we have RCA cables, and there are several other different types. We have the 1/8 inch size, the small ones, and we got the 1/4 inch tip ring sleeves, or commonly known as a stereo plug, but I stay away from calling it a stereo plug because you're not always running it for stereo purposes. So that pretty much covers the different things that you can come across running your studio. Like I say, the best thing I can think of to tell anybody that's wanting to set up for a home studio is try to run everything as balanced lines if you can do so. It doesn't mean it's bad to run mono. It just means you're going to guarantee a quieter system if you're running balanced lines. So that would be my biggest tip. So be ready to sink some money into a selection of cables. But if you buy quality and don't go real cheap, then they should last you a long time. Just be sure to take care of them, and they'll serve you well. So I hope you found the video helpful. Please like, thumb up it, and share it, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.